Hi everyone, warm welcome back to the channel. This week's video, obviously we want to give you some more tips that you can be working on at home or when we get back to the range or the golf course. This week I want to look at the slide in the downswing. So we talked last video about sway. I know it sounds like you're dealing with a dance move, but you know, we got on top of the sway in last week's video. Now to get on top of the slide. So for me, putting it simply, the slide is a movement in the downswing, a lateral move where your lower half particularly moves on the way down towards the target and slides into the target line. So what we want to try and obviously do is make sure that the left side clears, weight turns into the left heel and we rotate up and through the golf shot. If we move forward and slide with our lower half, it causes all sorts of issues with bends, movements and impact on the floor more than anything. So if you think you're in the category of being a bit of a slider, we might want to check out this analysis and a couple of tips that might help you.
Okay, so let's jump in and take a little look at this slide movement that I've been talking about. So if we have a little look at the image of the Tour Pro, only joking, it's just me. We want to try and feel that when we're making this movement in the downswing, we avoid what's happening in the left picture. So for the purpose of both images, I've put a line on my lead side or my left side to indicate whether I'm going to breach the line and slide and move my knee through that barrier. So what I'm looking for here, in the left hand picture, I make the backswing and I, rather than rotate around and straighten the leg, you can see very early I breach that line and the knee goes through, the leg goes laterally towards the target, and now I'm in quite an awkward position there and I'm having to fight and I can't really rotate my hips at all. So you know, that's an example of how, you know, I wouldn't like to see the lower half working. So that's a slide, you know, so we don't really want to see that line broken there. Then we go over to the right hand picture and, you know, there's a little bit more function in the hips, a bit more mobility here. I can see the left leg starting to straighten a bit and I can see a little bit more stability here. Clearance could be a little bit better as a critique of myself, but I think there, if you look at both pictures, you know, the club now has exited. It's a little bit blurry on the right there, but you can certainly see there's more stability in the right hand picture. So I'm trying to keep on the inside of that line. I don't want to breach that line. So really, I mean, if you're using any software, you're able to put any lines on a camera shot. If you're in the garden, at the range, you know, it's really useful to stick something on the outside of your sort of lead ankle, lead leg. Pop a straight line up there if you haven't got any software or you can't draw any lines, put a ruler or the edge of a book there, just so you can see if there's any of that lateral shift in that movement towards the target. I think what was quite noticeable for me as well, we used GC Quad in our studio. The left-hand picture, I struggled to get any sort of decent contact on the ground and my numbers were generally out. My ability to hit the ball well, my carry yardage was probably only about 164 for my 7-iron. It's normally around 170 to 175, so I was losing ball speed and, more important, I was losing control of my ground strike. When I started to hit balls and turn more around my body and not move my knee through the line and not make that lateral slide, I started to get my ball speed numbers back up. So I started to get my power back, I was hitting the ground properly, and it was generally more stable and more efficient. You might notice as well in the right hand picture there's a very, very faint line. It didn't come out as well, but it's actually a green stick. Now I'll just put a line on there now. There we go, there's actually a teaching stick there I've got in the ground, and you might have just seen that. Now I put that there just as an illustration, and it's a little bit outside of my lead leg, but I think, you know, anything you can do at home, and this would be a little drill I would work on. I'd put a stick on that lead side in the ground, in the garden, just making practice swings. You could even stick a brolly in the floor, you know, just something there that's visual, or maybe something you can feel as well. So when you're turning into it, you don't feel you're knocking against it, if that makes sense. So just something there made me feel that I was turning on the inside and not letting my knee break forward. So anything like an umbrella or a stick in the ground, that would work just fine.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the physical reasons you might be struggling with this particular movement. So the slide, when you're activating that lower part of the body to try and get back to the golf ball, and you breach that line we saw earlier on in the analysis video,
Looking at things like, hip mobility. Is your range of motion with your hips good enough? Are you moving through impact well enough with your hips, or are you making a compensatory movement? Could the ability to separate your upper and lower body in terms of rotation be there in your golf swing? Is that a limitation that you have? Is it something you and your coach could pick up on? Do you need to do some fitness gym work to help you out with that? Potentially, yes. Are your glutes strong enough? Can you turn into your lead sided right-handed golfer like I am? Looking at the analysis video, are my glutes strong enough to turn into that left side, and is my leg stable enough to take weight through impact? Is that another weakness that you're maybe finding? So they're kind of things from a physical perspective that you might be struggling with if you're a slider into the impact zone. Other things I would pick up on as well, I would look at things like ball position. Is the ball position too far forward in your setup? If the ball's too far forward, are you sliding to get back to the golf ball and trying to pick the ball, or maybe scoot the ball off the surface? Maybe changing ball position might eliminate some of that lateral movement into in the downswing. Another thing I would probably look at as well is, the last video we covered was sway. So, is a swaying motion in the backswing leading to you trying to slide to get back, and are you overcooking it? That's definitely a possibility. That's where working with a coach, PGA coach, or looking at your swing on camera, videoing it yourself, that's huge, So is there something happening in the backswing that leads as a chain reaction to you making a slide in through the impact area? Another one as well I would look at, for me, tour players are week in, week out going into the tour vans, optimizing their equipment, looking for any gain they can possibly make ahead of the field. You may look at something like footwear if you're a slider. Is your footwear the correct size, the correct width? If your shoes are too big for you, is there too much movement in your feet as you're making impact with the golf ball? Are they moving around and causing you to slide? Now, that sounds like quite a strange thing to say, but these guys that are playing at the top level, they're not wearing a pair of shoes that are a size too big for them. So, something as simple as going to get your feet checked and measured properly for your golf shoes is another really important thing. So all of those things all rolled into one, are any of those like sort of ringing off alarm bells in your head when you've looked at your swing on video and you thought, yeah, I'd slide or sway or make a movement? And is it related to something else? Is there something I can pick up on there that's going to maybe help me on the way to getting that right? So hopefully that helps, and I hope you can get on top of it.
I hope that was really helpful and you got some useful information out of that. As always, if you enjoyed the video, if you could like it, and if you want to keep receiving the information and the notifications of when we're releasing a video, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all next time.